Good afternoon. You're listening to Gambling with an Edge. Now here are your hosts, Bob Dancer and Richard Munchkin.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. I'm Bob Dancer.
And I'm Richard Munchkin.
And today is our last day, as far as we know now. This is our last show, and it's possible we'll have sessions in the future, kind of spurred at random. There's no plans to do that now, and who knows what the future will bring. It's been a nice run. We've enjoyed it, and we're going to get down to your questions. First ones were, we just got the day we're taping this show, and it came from Colin Jones, who is a blackjack apprenticeship, good friend of the show, good friend of Richard and me. What is something you have learned from a guest while hosting Gambling with an Edge? For me, I think it would be Captain Jack telling us about the sign-up bonuses that were happening in Arizona and other places for in the sports book. And when you live in Las Vegas, the Arizona border is not that far away. And so I was able to travel to Arizona and get down all kinds of bets. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be. It's not, there's a learning curve to dealing with these online casinos and funding them and stuff like that. And so it was not falling off the log that I thought it would be, and it took several trips.
It's just never easy, is it?
And later I did it flying to Denver to take advantage of the Colorado bonuses, and with a different set of beginner problems that I had to deal with, and got some of them solved and some of them not solved. Overall, it was a highly profitable play, but that's one example of something I learned while hosting Gambling with an Edge. Richard, did you learn something that you implemented?
Well, it didn't come really from one guest. It just came from our guests in general, which was the idea that every single game can be beat under the right conditions. And one of the things I'm proudest of is that we have had people on this show talking about beating every game you can imagine. And the person that really drove that home for me was Mohan Srivastava, who we had on twice, who was a guy who figured out a way to beat scratch-off lottery tickets. And just a month ago, we had Mr. Doppy on, who, years later made enormous amounts of money playing the lottery. And so when Mohan was on, I was like, if you can beat the lottery, you can beat anything. And that is true. You can beat anything. Now, not all the time and not every casino, but under the right conditions, everything can be beat. And so that's what was really driven home.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you haven't read it yet, Mohan wrote a short story about Scrabble that won some awards. He's Canadian and won some awards. So his last name is impossible. It's Srivastava, Srivastava. But if you look up Srivastava Scrabble, you'll find it. It is well worth spending the 5 minutes to read this short story. It is delightful.
Or you could actually, if you just search for the episode, wherever you get Gambling with an Edge, I'm pretty sure that the link to the article is in the show notes for the episode he's on. Well, one of the two episodes he's on.
All right. So we weren't planning to have a recommended for today, but that's the one I wasn't planning on giving. All right. So how about an AP play that you missed out on that you wish you could have executed?
Why don't you go first? Because you asked me this just before we went on the air, and I came up with one.
Yes.
And then now I've already forgotten what it was.
All right. I have several. One was, for a brief period of time, Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas installed $100 3-coin Full Pay Deuces Wild. Now, Full Pay Deuces Wild is a 100.76% game, plus the normal slot club benefits, and this would be $300 a hand. And so it was gone before I ever heard about it. People shared the machine amongst themselves, like you can have it for 4 hours and then I get it back, or whatever they did. And it was long gone. Somebody had the nerve to be dealt a royal, and for I guess that'd be $240,000, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So that is one. I
actually have two. So the first one is back in the early 80s when I retired the first time. It was the heyday of computer blackjack. And I had moved to LA and was busy trying to break into the film business. And my teammates, two different teams, started playing with blackjack computers and made 7 figures. And I was, busy trying to be an actor. So that's one. And another one is in the late 90s. It was the heyday of banking the games in California. And I got involved just a little bit, but again, I was doing other things. And, my friends who got all the way into banking in California, again, made 7 figures. And so those are two of the ones that I wish I hadn't missed out on.
And I have another one that I hadn't missed out on. Ticket in, ticket out is relatively new phenomenon from the mid-90s on, I guess. But it used to be when you would get a jackpot, which would be when the machine locks up, the casino will put 5 coins in to start your next hand. Now, if you're playing dollar video poker on a $4,000 jackpot, which happens every 40,000 hands, you get an extra $5, or in some games, aces with a kicker, you get an extra $5. That is no big deal. But then Sunset Station installed $100 machines. This requires $500 to play, and every time you get 3 of a kind or higher, it's a W2G. And so instead of getting $1,500 for the W2G, they would give you the $1,500 and then give you 5 coins for the next one to turn it into a $2,000 jackpot.
Wow.
Now the pay schedule was dreadful, but it doesn't matter. This was about 180% game on a $500 a hand game. So the players who just figured this out, none of them could afford $500. They just, when it's a partnership, it's impossible to lose. But of course, the casino only put up with that for 9 hands and pulled the plug on it. And during those 9 hands, they did lose. So
I wouldn't feel bad about missing that one just because that's not going to last. I mean, no matter how dumb the casino is, they're going to figure that one out pretty quick.
Yep. So did you have another one that you were going to mention? You said you had 2.
I mentioned them both, the banking in California and the computer play.
In that case, Colin's third question is, what is our favorite wow, I can't believe I'm doing this moment as an AP? And for me, that was in the late 90s, playing video poker. There were huge promotions every weekend. They had 9-6 jacks, which is 99.5%, with a 6-7 slot club, generous comps, big promotions. And so just going and playing 9-6 jacks or better, which is probably the easiest video poker game ever to play perfectly. This was like several years in a row for $300,000 or $400,000 per person if you're playing this full time. And it's just, they would beat us well and give us comp tickets. And I was just like, just think we could be working. And this was just a moment that we knew it wouldn't last. And of course it didn't. But that was my, wow, I can't believe I'm getting to do this moment.
Well, I have two again. One of them was initially meeting Ed Thorpe at the Blackjack Ball and having him tell me he enjoyed my book, and having him show up year after year. That was just really cool for me. But the other one was a play that I really can't go into the details of the play, but it was a play that involved, there were three other, Hall of Fame members on the table with me on a play that lasted 24 hours and, was the largest, table win of my career. So, and it was a play where the guy betting most of the money was about as famous as you could get in the blackjack world. And the casino had absolutely no clue what was going on. None at all. And 4 months later invited him back, even after we decided he had to give up, he had to cash out the money because we just thought it would be too weird for a guy to walk out the door with that much in chips. And so he gave up ID, CTR'd, gave his real name, and 4 months later, we were like, they never barred you. Maybe we can go back. And he's like, it's not possible. Like, there's just no way. And, but we said, well, hey, call them on the phone and say you're thinking about coming back and see what they say. And they said, yeah, come on, we'll get your room and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh my God. And we went back and within the first hour, they came and shut the play down and said, look, we Googled you. And, again, had no idea what was going on. And because the game wasn't blackjack, that I think had a lot to do with it. But, it was maybe my favorite play of all time.
Yeah, actually, I haven't heard that story even offline. So I know many of the rest of you want more details on it. I know I certainly do. But it sounds like we're not going to get them. All right, let's move on. Richard, I know you've mentioned enjoying Ken Houston's $1 Million Blackjack. Something he said I take issue with, as well as I believe Colin Jones. Colin having mentioned playing early on with a 70% risk of ruin. What Ken Houston said in the chapter on determination of betting strategy, if we are winning players, the chances of tapping out are never more than 1 out of 2. I've often skeptically thought of that comment sitting short stacked at the table. Richard.
Well, I don't quite understand that. 1 out of 2. I mean, 50% chance of tapping out? That sounds absurd. Like, of course you're going to tap out if you do that. So I'm not sure what Ken meant. I remember back in the 80s, Ken calling my partner Daryl and saying, hey, I got these guys to put up some money for a bankroll. How should I bet it? And Daryl was like, should I say to him, like, why don't you look at one of your books, Ken? So Ken Houston was not the best guy to talk about bankroll management, but I don't know what he's referring to, but yeah, so.
Yeah. And it seems.
And as to Colin says, like, he didn't know what he was doing. He obviously was playing with way too high a risk of ruin, and he didn't learn about that until much later in his career. So that's what that's about.
Yeah, and that's certainly true for me in video poker. I didn't know how to calculate risk of ruin early on. But there's also seems to be a difference between tapping out session-wise and bankroll-wise. And so I'm thinking you never are going to bring your entire bankroll to the table and risking that, although tapping out for an individual session, well, that happens all the time, where you have, 400 or 500 bets with you out of whatever your bankroll is, and lose that in an individual session. All right, next question. Bob, I met you many years ago at Borgata for a class and a copy of your books. Will you be continuing with your Tuesday blog on Las Vegas Advisor? The answer is yes. I plan to continue that blog indefinitely. Stopping the podcast has nothing to do with changing my whole life or getting out of gambling completely or getting out of writing. I'd like to find a way to teach again. If I can find a casino that is interested in having me and has games that are teachable. Next question. What is the penalty for using 9-6 jacks or better to play 10-7 double bonus? And I haven't calculated this recently, but I think it's about 0.5%. Taking the game from 100.17 to 99.6 approximately. Probably more, because if somebody isn't talented enough or dedicated enough to learn 10-7 double bonus, that person probably doesn't know 9-6 jacks or better perfectly anyway. All right, next question is the sports betting about odds boosters. That is promotional bets some sportsbook may offer. These bets mostly have plus EV. What do you think about them? They can be a marketing tactic by the sportsbook to get you to take on more variance. And a lot of sportsbooks offer small bonus bets every day. They want to keep you coming back to their site. Most of these are plus EV. So if you want to go to their site, there are players who will go to all the sites in their jurisdiction every day and make these small bets. And that is definitely positive EV. And you can start out your day with a $50 or $100 or $200 EV and then go on and do what you normally do. So, yeah, if I can recognize a good bet, I would definitely take this, unless starting your day with a couple $100 EV isn't enough to be worth your time, which could be if you're Richard and talking about this game with 4 Hall of Famers on the table, stopping to pick up $200, it was way too much. So, for Richard, if you talk about it, how much hole carding did you do in your career? Was it blackjack or other games? If you did hole carding, did someone train you what to look for? Did you figure out and scout games for yourself? Where did you learn the correct strategy for playing against a known hole card?
So, yes, I played quite a bit of hole cards. In the beginning, no, nobody trained me. In the beginning, it was finding dealers where it was obvious, which there were so many hand-dealt games in Las Vegas back then that, there were just hundreds and hundreds of games to look at. And the majority of the games were not what we used to call front loaders or third basers with a hand-dealt game, but first basers, because the dealers used to peek under 10s. So someone at first base could see what the whole card was onto the 10. And so I played much more of that than I did, flashers. Yes, blackjack and other games. When other games got invented, that was a big boon for a lot of people, because many of the new games, there were edges to be had. So, what was the rest of the question? I think, or did I answer all of it? Yes, I played it. Yes, I played multiple games. No one taught me. Oh, where did I get the strategy? Originally, there was a strategy in Ken Houston's book. I think it was $1 Million Blackjack. There was a whole card strategy chart. Now the gold standard is Exhibit CAA by James Gross.
All right. Now, question for me. It says, Bob, you stated on the show that card pulling, at least the type where you pull the card between the deal and the draw in video poker, isn't a thing anymore since machines will retain the card's information through the draw. But do you ever or did you ever employ other types of card pulling, such as removing the card before the deal when you have a lot of multipliers in Ultimate X? And my answer is I card pull very rarely, simply because I'm a well-known player, and at least in video poker, in every casino that allows me to play, I assume there are some management people who think it's a bad idea for them to let me play. So I try very hard not to give them a reason to kick me out. I can never know when the camera is looking at me or being reviewed even after I leave. So I always act as I'm being watched. Have I ever done it? Yes. Do I do it very often? No. In slots, there's a lot of really easy ways to do this. On some games that you can generate huge losses, basically almost invisibly. But Vicky Krim mentioned a few of these a month or so ago. But video poker, no, I'm not a card puller. Okay, I've been a regular listener of Gambling with an Edge podcast the last few years, and I really appreciate all the time and effort. Thank you very much. As you wrap up the show, could you please recommend any other podcasts, blogs, forums, or other media resources that come closest to providing the type of high-quality current information and news about advantage plays for which Gambling with an Edge is known? This can include both free or paid resources. I don't mind paying for access to information. I also listen to Risk of Ruins, Tens and Aces, the Blackjack Apprenticeship podcast. All are great, but they all release episodes much less frequently in Gambling with an Edge. Okay, so what are the best podcasts? It depends on your game. Now, sports betting has a number of good podcasts. Think, Captain Jack. Think Spanky. Rufus has some of his own in addition to the ones he does with Captain Jack. There are poker podcasts, a number of them. I'm not up to date on the best ones, as that's not my game. Richard, do you have anything to recommend in that area?
Well, you covered the bulk of it. I would also add, guy Rob Pizzola, who we had on the show, has a podcast called Circles Off, which he's a really good interviewer. It's a sports betting podcast, but I found it engaging even though I'm not a sports bettor. And the other one that I would recommend, which isn't really a how-to show, but a very entertaining show, is called Gamblers, and it's on The Ringer, which is, a offshoot of ESPN of some sort. So he doesn't do that many episodes. He has like a season. It's run by David Hill, who's been on the show. And he'll do like 8 episodes, and then, he'll be gone for a few months or whatever. So I would add those two to the mix.
Yeah, and Richard's also recommended like the Freakonomics podcast and a few other podcasts which are not directly related to gambling usually, but he's recommended them, and I assume he still does.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have lots of other podcasts I could recommend, but that aren't gambling related.
Okay. What is the biggest life lesson that you've learned while gambling? Not so much gambling, but life lessons. So my advice on that is to take care of yourself health-wise and life-wise. Stop smoking. Manage your weight. Exercise. Drink lots of water. Being vaccinated is a smart thing to do, whatever your politics. Maintain relationships with other humans. Even if you're a solo road warrior, find a Zoom that interests you. Like I participate in a Toastmaster group out of Iowa. They still have it on Zoom. They started this. They've been around forever, but they started Zoom podcasts. They're still doing them. So I've never met any of the people personally, although I know one from another podcast. But I'm kind of in relationship with 15 people who are interesting, who I've never met, but I certainly know what they look like and what their life's all about. And having an interest in other people is probably important. Consider volunteering. Branch out. Don't be a one-trick pony, either in gambling or in life. Richard.
So life lessons from the show or from gambling. The two that stick out, or three that stick out to me, are learn to look at life in terms of expected value, like really understand what expected value is and apply that to other things in your life. Another one is, man, I cannot say this enough times or stress it enough. Your success is going to be determined by your network and how hard you work. It's just your network is so incredibly important. And as I mentioned on the last mailbag show, one of the greatest benefits of this show to me was it expanded my network so much by meeting people I never would have met otherwise. So, and it just makes me anyway happier, because I have more people that I interact with in interesting and creative ways. So those are the two that jump out at me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Now, Richard likes people more than I like people, and so it is easier he has been so much more successful at networking than I ever have. But I do believe that my life works better when there's at least some other human interaction, and both on a professional and a personal level. I'm
sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, go ahead.
I also would add, I'm a big fan of quitting. So when things are not working, quit. I think people get stuck in ruts where they feel like I can't quit. I've got a mortgage, or I for whatever reason. But if you're not happy doing what you're doing, then just stop and do something else. You won't starve. You'll find another job or whatever it is but life is too short you hate.
I really like the Annie Duke book called Quitting or Quit, about some guidelines of when it does make sense to quit and when it doesn't. And having a good quitting strategy makes a lot of sense. All right, next question. About a year ago, I met some fellow APs who used to play blackjack, but they told me they started building players' cards for free play. They started getting me into it, but it soon turned me into working for them, where I would gather all their free play for them off of multiple cards. They assured me it wasn't illegal, but after seeing all the money it was producing, it made me feel pretty uncomfortable. I recently told them I wasn't going to be doing this anymore, but I kind of figured that activity, a lot of people are doing this, and wanted to know from you guys if this kind of activity was legal or not, or had any sage advice as to how to proceed in a way that would leave my conscience feeling better. Now, I do play on my wife's card where it's allowed, or where I've not specifically been told not to do it, which has happened at a few places. But in general, playing on somebody else's card, especially several other person's cards, I believe is fraud. There are a lot of listeners to this podcast who do it. I'm not a fan. This is an AP move, but it is also, in my opinion, cheating.
I would just add that it may be illegal in some places and not others, but even if it is not illegal, I know quite a number of people who have been arrested for it, and some charged for it, and some who had to plead guilty to some charges for it. So it is something you have to realize there is risk involved, and they're giving you the risky part, right? You're the one going in with the multiple cards to pick up the money. So, yeah, I would definitely not be doing it for somebody else, unless they're I mean, even if they were paying me a big chunk of the money, often, they're paying people 10% or 20% to go pick up the free play. I think it's crazy.
All right. What do you both predict for the future of AP? Richard.
Well, I've said this on the air a number of times. I predict that 10 years from now, there may be no live casino games anymore. It'll all be machines. And it will be impossible to play anonymously because there are already restaurants and things like that will not accept cash. Eventually it'll be casinos that won't accept cash. It'll be something on your phone or some device that hasn't been invented yet where you will get your money into play through that device. And because of that, they will have all your information. So for the vast majority of people, AP will be dead. But sharp APs are always going to find ways to beat games. At least I believe that. Even if you can't be anonymous and even if there's no cash, sharp players are going to find a way to beat games.
Yeah, it's a mindset. I mean, it's doing credit.
Yeah, it might not be card counting. It might not be video poker. Who knows what it'll be? I mean, nobody thought they'd be out playing slots full time 20 years ago. But that's a thing, right? So things change and you adapt or die.
All right. Does anyone still earn money in blackjack with automatic shuffle machines? Richard.
Well, most of the people making money in blackjack aren't playing. I think you mean continuous shuffling machines. Automatic shuffling machines are just machines that shuffle the cards for you, but they still deal them out of a shoe with a cut card and deal, 4 decks out of 6 or whatever. But continuous shuffling machines, then card counting is mostly dead in that situation. That doesn't mean that the game of blackjack can't be beat, but it is mostly dead for card counters if all they have is continuous shuffling machines, like some of the countries in Europe.
But they still might have whole carding possibilities on these games or promotions or something.
Well, yeah, but not in Europe because they don't take a whole card. But there might be other ways to beat the game. Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite casino game of all time?
Well, I mean, I'm just tempted to say blackjack just because that's where I spent the most amount of my time. Yeah.
Well, while you're still debating,
yeah.
Let me try my answer. For me, even though I play a lot of slots these days, video poker has been my meat and potatoes for almost 30 years. And for me in video poker, my favorite, I enjoy Deuces Wild and Quick Quads more than other video poker games. But I always ranked favorite in terms of expected dollars per hour. And for me, for an extended period of time, that was always at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas during my $1 million run 20-some years ago, where they were giving away the store and didn't realize it, and I just kept playing and playing and playing, and that was definitely something that was really favorite for me. Yeah. What's your largest failure in a casino?
Did we have this question before? I thought we answered it. Maybe not. Maybe I just read it. But anyway, if I've told the story before, forgive me. But in 1985, there used to be a magazine called Gambling Times. It was a monthly magazine. And I would read it religiously. And I saw a little ad in the back of the magazine that said they were opening a new casino in Aruba. And they were going to have single deck. And immediately called my friend Daryl, and I said, hey, we need to go to Aruba. And so I had found 2 games. One was in Curacao where they had early surrender, and then there was this game. So we went to Curacao first. We got stuck right away with the early surrender. And so we ended up there extending our trip, and we didn't have a lot of time left. So we finally flew over to Aruba, and we get to Aruba, and we ask them, where's the new casino? And they send us to a place. We go there, and there's no single deck. And so we go scout all the other casinos on the island, and it's not there. It was all a false alarm. So we lost this money, and we head back to Vegas, and I later found out that there was a casino that we missed. Somehow it was not right on the beach, and we did not find it. And the guy who did find it was able to win $300,000 on that game before they kicked him out. And those are $1985. And so that was my biggest failure, the fact that we did not find that game, knowing that we were going there specifically to look for that game.
All right. What is the single best piece of gambling advice you could give to an up-and-coming gambler?
Well, I think we just kind of covered that a couple of questions ago, but the best piece of advice is think about things in terms of expected value, and your success will be determined by your network and how hard you work.
Yeah, I'm thinking the person who sent this question wants to know how to get rich without doing any work, and I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
All right, we are going to have our last commercial break, and we have a few more questions before we.
Wait, you know what?
Close
Wait just a second. I have one more piece of advice.
Yes.
Conventional wisdom is maybe conventional, but it's not wisdom. I think there is money to be made in areas where people say, oh, well, you can't do this. And sometimes those are the areas you need to go really investigate, because you won't have competition if you find a way to do what everybody tells you can't do. So just, a couple examples, or one example of that is, it used to be, when 6 to 5 came out, people were just like, oh, this is horrible, the death of blackjack, and, nobody should ever play 6 to 5. And there were a lot of players who made lots and lots of money playing 6 to 5 because they didn't listen to the conventional wisdom. Another example was, every time somebody brought up computers on the old BJ21, Stanford Wong and a whole list of guys would immediately say, that's illegal, you'll go to jail. Well, it was illegal in Nevada. That didn't mean it was illegal everywhere. And so again, people who did not listen to the conventional wisdom were able to play with computers in places where it was still legal. So just one more piece of advice.
And ploppies, those options are not available to ploppies. I'm assuming ploppies mean you know nothing about advantage gambling. And what Richard's talking about is pretty sharp players looking for new ways on top of the old ways, but they're really well versed in the old ways. So it may not be so you got to learn some stuff before you're able to do these things. All right, Richard, why don't you lead off the commercials?
Okay. If you're serious about card counting, the Blackjack Apprenticeship membership is a great way to learn, train, network, and get the resources you need to succeed. We've had quite a few guests on Gambling with an Edge who exclusively trained and got their start through Blackjack Apprenticeship. Check out the website at blackjackapprenticeship.com. They have member forums, training software, and guides to help you learn. That's blackjackapprenticeship.com, and you will find a link in the show notes.
Videopoker.com is the best place to play lots of games. If you sign up for the gold membership, $8.95 a month or $79.95 a year, this allows you to get correction on most of the games. Game of the week is split card poker. This is a 10 coins per line game where periodically on the deal or the draw, not both, you receive a split card. A split card may be any card. Once the split card is chosen, the additional card may be with equal probability the same card one rank lower or one rank higher. For example, if the ace of clubs is a split card, it's equally likely to become the ace king of clubs, the ace deuce of clubs, or two aces of clubs. The only pay schedule addition is 5 of a kind on non-wild card games and 5 deuces on deuces wild variations. And before we leave this, videopoker.com is the only sponsor who has been with us since day one. And we are extremely grateful for that. South Point Casino is 4 months short of that, and so we're also grateful for them as well. They quit at the end of the year and last year. But we thank all of our sponsors, and without them, we couldn't have done this. And our new sponsors are, Unabated and Blackjack Apprenticeship, and they're certainly willing for us to keep going, but we kind of run out of steam. So let's hear one more for Unabated.
Everyone seems to be talking about sports betting lately. If you are looking to learn more about how you can profit from the sports betting gold rush, then unabated.com is a great resource for you. Founded by frequent Gambling with an Edge guests, Captain Jack and Rufus Peabody, unabated.com has free educational articles and an odds screen to help you shop lines. If you bet props, their Essentials tier has projections and simulators you won't find elsewhere. Premium tier membership adds an array of pricing calculators, in-game tools, and the most advanced real-time odds screen available. Take a trial run with their tools to decide if unabated.com is right for you.
All right. Have either of you ever advantage played a carnival game at an actual carnival?
No, I don't think I ever have.
I can think of one example where I did. I probably was 18 or 19 years old and was with my first real girlfriend, and we both were Sunday school teachers at the local Methodist church, and so they took so we kind of chaperoned a group of kids who went to a carnival, and they had a fire a gun and hit a target, and if you can knock over the target, you get a free teddy bear. So Gretchen told me she'd like a teddy bear, so it didn't look that hard. So I went up there. And they showed me how easy it was, and they just tipped it with a long stick and fell right over. And then they put it back up there again and had me shoot. And even if I bet again, they would let me use the stick to push it over. And of course it didn't work, because but I noticed the thing I had to tip over had it was lopsided, and if the fat side was front, then when you tip the top, it just falls over, but doesn't fall off the shelf. And if the fat side is behind, then when you tip the top, it actually falls into the hole. So, but I noticed that I noticed a spot. And when they did it to show me how easy it was, the spot wasn't there. And when I had to do it, the spot was there. So after I had the stick they just allowed me to push it over if I paid for the bet. Then I said, you need to turn it around because you're cheating. And if you turn it around, I'll tell everybody how you're cheating them. So they turned it around and let me push it over with the thing, and I got Gretchen a teddy bear. So I have no idea where that teddy bear is today. I suspect it is long gone, but I have not seen Gretchen for 60 years, and teddy bear either. All right. You said that the worst thing you can do with a promotional match wager is to use it on roulette and have one person place their match bet on red and the other place it, same wager, on black, and then split the win if and when it happens. I took my friends to claim and use the Southwest promotion that has been mentioned on the show. Thank you very much. And my buddy, who rarely gambles, took the advice from the group DGen to use this strategy. I attempted to talk them both out of it and alluded to the show saying they're better off placing it on number or numbers. The DGen said, but this is a sure thing. Well, it hit green, so I felt validated. Can you explain this again so I can share with them, or in what episode can I find this information?
Oh, we don't want to spend our last episode talking about math. Yeah, I don't remember what episode it was in, but people like that, I think you're better off not even trying to, or a better thing is whatever they think they're guaranteed to win, offer them that amount of money to buy the coupon from them and then bet it the right way and earn the extra EV.
Yeah, and one thing about EV is you can lose. On this particular, if you're really concerned about winning this particular time, then yeah, taking the guarantee is worth something. But if you're in this game for a length of time, winning this particular time is not so important. It's how you do over the year, over your lifetime that matters.
Also, by the way, most places will not allow you to bet those coupons on a single number. So it may not have even been an option.
Yeah, and when I play at the D with my those coupons, I use it on the gambling pass line, just the craps pass line, and it's resolved fairly quickly. I win my 49% of the time that I'm supposed to, and it works out fine. And so that you can have a lot of these coupons all at once. You get two every time you show your ticket. In addition to Southwest, they also will accept boarding passes from Spirit Airlines, and so you can do it every time you come to Vegas. As long as you flew on one of those airlines, you get two of these $25 match play coupons. So if there's two of you, that's 4 coupons for yep. All right. And when I play, I'm also playing some on slots at the same time. I'm not going in there just to collect the bonus. If I'm in there and I have to go to the booth to collect it, I make sure they have play on my card on the day. All right, next question. I'm a new listener and very much enjoy your podcast. I've played blackjack for years and have recently tried high-low card counting system. In being honest with myself, with my attention deficit disorder, I found the hours on end concentration required to successfully implement this system is just too much for me. Instead, I'm playing perfect basic strategy at the most busy table I can find while playing rated. With casino comps, I'm actually playing very close to break even and having fun doing so. My question is there any advice for lowering the house edge further than what I'm already doing without using a professional card counting system? My interest is being the smartest gambler I possibly can, given that card counting is too tough for me.
Well, I would say probably there are things you could do. I assume you're playing double deck, which is going to give you the lower house edge than the shoe games. And there are some kind of combinations of cards that would give you a tiny amount, but better would be to try to fool them on your size of your bet and the amount you're playing. So Comp City is a book we've talked about a lot by Max Rubin. And the idea is your comps are based on your average bet and the amount of time you're playing. So if you can convince them that you're betting more than you really are and that you're playing more longer than you really are, that will lower the amount that you're giving to the casino in EV, but get you more in comps. So the ways to do that are to bet more when the pit boss is over there filling out the rating card, and then lower your bets when he walks away, and taking frequent bathroom breaks, doing things like getting to the table before they're going to change the cards, because it always takes time for them to go through all the decks and change the cards, and you're on the clock while that's happening. So, those are the things that can increase your comps and lower the amount of EV you're giving in the casino.
All right. Last question about video poker. I've recently started practicing on my phone, and when trying to play quickly, I occasionally hold the face card and throw away a low pair just by accident. But it'll make me feel better if I don't see an additional low card of the same value on the draw, because I figured it wouldn't have hit a 3 or 4 of a kind with that card. Is this the correct mentality, or would the draw be different had I kept the pair? I figure I'm wrong, but it does make me feel better about making a mistake. Well, I'm glad it makes you feel better. Whenever that happens to me, I slow down. Usually such mistakes are made by playing too fast. These errors add up, which can mean the game you thought you were playing with advantage, you aren't. So whatever card you actually hit on this practice on your phone have no bearing on anything. That's not really a payoff window. And when you're playing, if you make this mistake in a casino, it's the cards are still shuffling, and so the actual cards that you get after holding the single high card are going to be different than the ones you got if you held it a tick slower. So basically, slow down, and you'll be fine. And so we're at the end. Do you have any last words for our listeners, Richard?
Just that it's been a pleasure. I started August of 2011, so 12 years ago, almost 12 years, and it's just, it's been great. I've learned a lot, met a lot of great people, so yeah, I've really, really enjoyed my time doing this.
Yeah, and I started 6 months before that, where Frank Nealon was my co-host for a while, and I've learned a lot, and I appreciate the audience. I've become less of a pariah since I started this. I have historically had lots of bad things written about me in various blogs, various internet forums. And since I started the show and people have gotten to know me more, a lot of the questions still have gone away. I don't have a lot of fans on Blackjack Discord. I understand that, and they still trash me regularly. But
wait, they love you. They love Sex, Lies, and Video Poker.
Okay. Shall we say that opinion is not unanimous over there? But I've enjoyed it. I've grown a lot as a knowledge-wise. Am now accepted as a wise senior citizen in the gambling world, which is not a bad position to be in. I continue to get invited to the blackjack ball, for which I'm grateful. I enjoy that, even though blackjack is not my game. And getting to know Richard better has been a plus, and one of my goals is to stay in touch with him even after we end this. He's a good part of my network. So thank you all our listeners for this. Thank you, Richard. Go out and hit a royal flush, everybody. Good day.